Hi everyone, welcome back to Coffee Books and Rain. I'm Rachel, and I am coming to you on a Sunday that is Father's Day. So happy Father's Day. I was going to say Happy Friday, which was weird. Not Friday, Father's Day. Now, if you are a father, congrats and happy Father's Day to you. I am not a father. I am, I guess, a mother of two puppies. So this is not my day. But if it is yours, happy Father's Day. Um, anyway, we are talking about books. My coffee is actually making. Now you're wondering, why do you have coffee? Or why don't you have coffee right now? It is actually about 6 p.m. and I am making decaf because I have a couple of books I need to get through this evening in order to get a few episodes stacked up for the week. I am going out of town. I have quite a few books that I finished this weekend that I need to record. And it was raining earlier and we are out of rain. It is actually quite sunny and nice now. So anyway, but we're going to go ahead and dive into the first book that I am going to talk about, and it is called A Far Better Thing by H.G. Parry. Now this is expected publication on June 17th of 2025, and it's getting pretty good reviews. I enjoyed it, but it was not what I expected. And we're going to talk about that in just a few moments because I am going to read the summary first, and then we're going to go from there. H.G. Parry's A Far Better Thing is a standalone portal fantasy where Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell meets a tale of two cities in a heart-rending fantasy of fairy revenge set during the French Revolution. I fear this was the best of times. I hoped it could not get any worse. The fairies stole Sidney Carton as a child and made him a mortal servant of the fairy realm. Now he has a rare opportunity for revenge against the Fae, and Charles Darnay, the Changeling, left in his stead. It will take magic and cunning, cold iron and realm silver, to hide his intentions from humans and fae, to bring his plans to fruition. Shuttling between London and Paris during the Reign of Terror, generations of violence begetting violence, leading him to a heartbreaking choice in the shadows of the guillotine. It is considered fantasy, historical fantasy, fiction, adult, and fae. So this is not YA, and I think that's for good reason. I do think the subject matter is fairly adult in content. And it's not because I don't think that children or young adults would understand it. I think that most of them probably would. Sorry, my chair was squeaking a little bit right there. It's just that I think a lot of it really does have to do with making more what I would consider adult choices. And with regards to the characters, they are of a more mature adult age. So I don't think YA would have been a good fit for this book. Now, again, frequently I don't read summaries prior to picking these books up. I know H.G. Parry's books are usually really good, moody, and atmospheric, and this one was good in those ways. It has some supernatural elements, however, I do feel it rides the kind of line just a little bit, just enough to make it historical fiction with supernatural elements rather than being fantastical to the extreme. So it is very well blended. And I do see that this other reviewer as well also kind of makes that same sort of note that it feels like that historical fiction with just hints of the fantasy. Now, little Leo is making a cute little sound. He's ready for his dinner, which is getting ready in the kitchen. So we're going to record this episode and he's going to get his dinner. He doesn't have to worry. But Sydney is our main character. Now, we kind of go back and forth between the name that he's been given is Sidney Carton, and he is a lawyer by trade. He studied in Paris and he has been working at a law firm in London for quite some time. Seems to be of, I don't want to say kind of disrepute, but kind of comes in drunk, is not maybe the greatest lawyer in the world, but during one particular session, he runs across his changeling. And this changeling is the person who was left in his stead when the Fae took him. So, he was a child who was taken from the crib when he was young, brought to the world of the Fae, and ultimately became a mortal servant of the Fae. So now he is back in the realm of the mortals in this new guise with a new name, not living under his previous name, and now he sees this fairy who is living in his old life. Now, that is Charles Darnay. And so he gets to see this man who is quite beautiful because, of course, he is Fae, but he does also realize that Charles Darnay does probably not realize that he is Fae, or of Fae-born, or of anything like that. This individual was left in the crib to be raised in the manner he was raised, or as Sydney should have been raised, but was not. So, where Sydney would probably want to be jealous, there are parts of him that are, and then there are parts of him that are not. He does see, he sympathizes a little bit with Charles Darnay. However, there is one particular aspect that Sydney does envy, and that is the love interest of Charles Darnay. And it is this particular individual that I won't talk about too much because I do think that's a pretty big kind of crux to the book as well. I think that's where some of this heartrending part is to talk about. But choices have to be made on Sydney's part. And we do also realize that Sydney has two names. The name that the Fae gave him is Memory, and the name when he came back to the world of the mortals is Sydney Carlton, or Carton. And so his birth name is Charles Darnay. He doesn't go by it because someone else has that name. His Fae name is Memory, and his new mortal name is Sydney Carton. So there are a couple names that kind of float around, but we could call him Memory or Sydney. It is good. It is complex. There's a lot going on, but not all of it is action related. I think it's very story driven, but it's not always action driven. There are emotionally driven parts to this story with regards to getting invested and wanting certain things to happen for these characters. I'm not going to tell you some of them do. I'm not going to tell you some of them don't. I'm just going to say, be aware. Sometimes the wild hunt is after various characters. We do have some characters who tend to, we have, there's a magician character, and I am drawing a bit of a blank on his name. Ambrose? Is that his name? I had the audiobook, and I do wish I had the ebook just so I could go back and have a list of names, but I had the audiobook for this, so I thought it was narrated fantastically, but it also sometimes doesn't help names stick in my brain as well. But there is a particular magician who he kind of does ride the line between being able to see magical fae elements, but also kind of does magical things. And some of them are just magician tricks, and some of them are some true illusory fae-ish magic things. And you do kind of start to kind of get invested in him as well, because there's a point where they question, well, how old are you? And he's like, oh, I'm 35. Wait, I just turned 36. And they're like, wow, I thought you were so much older. And you're just like, oh my God. Now, that made me kind of realize that whatever he's been doing to his body has really taken a toll on it for them to think that he's so much older than that. I swear I have the Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell book on my shelf, or at least I have had it in the past. Have I read it? No, probably not. And I will also say Tale of Two Cities is one of those super weighty books that I have probably got also on my shelves and have probably also never finished it just due to the cumbersomeness of it. There are certain books that are probably top 100 books you should read before you die that I have left on my bookshelves because I have not been in the right headspace to read. And I feel like Tale of Two Cities is one of those books because I have not been in a depressed enough state. And yes, I have been diagnosed with depression, but I have not been in a state where I have been like, you know what, I'm ready for a Tale of Two Cities. Because I just don't know when I'm going to be ready for it. I should just probably take the time to read it. I know. This book, it's good. It's emotional, and it has a lot of power to it. I think like saying Les Miserables has a lot of power to it because of course you've got the martyrs of the war and the people fighting, for freedom and for what's right. And you've got all these different aspects of Les Miserables. And I think you get a lot of different aspects in this book as well. Again, not always action-packed. You do get some martyrs. You get some people going to the guillotine. And not all of it is happy. By no means. But it's good. And I think as I was listening to it, I didn't know what I was getting myself into. I thought I was going to walk into a fairy story because at the very beginning you do kind of realize, okay, Sydney Carton, fairies, you've got changelings. I didn't really know what I was getting into. I was not sure what the premise, where it was going to take me. I thought perhaps maybe Sydney Carton was going to try to get revenge for the changeling that took his place, and I was wrong. And then I thought, well, maybe we were going to go in a different direction, and then I was wrong on that aspect as well. And we went down this other complex path where we have fairies and manipulations and war and all of it very emotionally tied, and Sydney doing his very best to navigate these waters. He's mortal, but he works for the Fae in kind of he's bonded to them in almost a way that they do have sway over him. He has a minuscule amount of say in what he can turn down or say no to, or if he can lie to them in certain respects. Otherwise, he may lose his freedom,